Doucement quand tu me parles.
Bah non, je vais l'habitude quand me parler comme ça, je parle doucement là, ou pas.
You've been fucking killing each other for centuries. And it keeps on going. Look at this fucking clown show. It's theater. It's nothing more than theater. And these are the people that are running our fucking lives. Fuck you, NATO.
Yes. You don't have to go to hell. You're in hell. This is hell. This is hell. This is hell.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
Then strangled them, and finally dismembered their bodies.
Right.
Then do and homelessness and all that.
And now, the voice you've been waiting for.
There is a secret song at the center of the world, and its sound is like razors through flesh. I'm here to turn up the volume.
I'm kind of retarded.
You know, when the news broke on Thursday that O.J. Simpson had died, I really wasn't expecting it to be that major news story, but after all this time, people are still captivated by what became known as the trial of the century, and basically was the launch pad for court TV. And after all these years, it's something that people still seem to feel very strongly about one way or the other. And the first thing I thought of was, shit, wouldn't it be awesome if they could get a white Bronco hearse? Because with the police escort that accompanies a funeral procession, it would be like a reenactment of the most famous police chase ever. And I don't know if you're aware of it, but in more recent years, there's been a sort of theory that's popped up that it actually wasn't OJ that committed the murders, but it was his son. An interesting concept that would explain a few things. I mean, most of the time, someone's defense strategy in a murder trial revolves around trying to point the blame elsewhere. They never really did that. They never really tried to point the finger at anyone else. They just pointed the finger at police and prosecutorial malfeasance. And what if it was because he was trying to protect his son? If that were the case, it would make a pretty interesting conversation when he gets up to those old pearly gates and meets St. Peter, right? And I could see St. Peter saying something like, listen, the big man told me, and I quote, I don't fucking know, you decide. And I gotta say, Juice, this is a tough call. Let me just take a little look-see in my book here and see what else we got. Oh, what have we here?
Hey, Twitter world, it's me, yours truly. Heard something really interesting today. You know, with 99 or whatever % of people dying are the unvaccinated from the new COVID stuff, and over 90% of hospitalizations, especially in Florida, are among the unvaccinated. A female doctor was on this morning, and she made the best analogy I've heard. She said that being vaccinated is like wearing your seatbelt, that it doesn't guarantee you won't get in an accident, but if you do, you have a much better chance of surviving. Hey, get your shots. I don't like wearing masks. And it's you people who aren't getting the shots that has brought this mask thing back. I'm just saying. Take care.
Well, I guess that settles it. See you later, bud. Say hi to John McCain for me. And can you believe the audacity of some people suggesting that just because OJ got the and all of the boosters, that somehow that's connected to him getting this cancer and dying within a couple years? That's just crazy, right?
And that's all I have to say about that.
So did you hear the one about the city officials in Detroit and how they convinced the residents that what they really need is a big Hollywood-style sign to help revitalize things?
Oh, that's stupid! Really stupid.
I could think of a lot of better ways to spend the money, but hey, let's leave this to the experts, right? So they said, look how cool it's gonna be. And they kinda sold everybody on it. And look at what they got. So now the residents are big mad And they're saying, hey, you duped us, and you spent 400 grand on this bullshit? But here's the thing, you really counted on city politicians to deliver on their promises? In Detroit?
No, you are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
You stupid.
And then there was this picture that the Navy posted on their official Instagram account. Now, other than the fact that he's got his buttstock sitting a little bit high in his shoulder pocket, and his front grip mounted idiotically close to the magazine, he's also got his scope on backwards.
Little dumbass.
I can almost hear his fucking thoughts through the picture. I wonder why everything looks so small. And it's not like this is some lowly dipshit sailor who they just threw up there and handed a weapon. This is a commanding officer on the fucking USS John McCain. Do people still wonder why our military is no longer respected and feared around the world the way it once was? Is that still a thing? Because, well, actually, I'd say Exhibit A would be the Afghanistan withdrawal, but right here, Exhibit B, and Exhibit C, and so on and so forth. And now it seems that Boeing has another whistleblower that's set to testify to a congressional committee on Wednesday. And I don't know, maybe it was just an ABC News thing, but when they reported this, there wasn't a single mention of the other Boeing whistleblower who just last month committed suicide in his truck in the hotel parking lot. So I bet this guy's sleeping real soundly right about now. But I'm sure this is no big deal, right? Wheels falling off the landing gear during takeoff and emergency doors blowing out mid-flight. I guess it's a good thing they're not making our fighter jets, huh? Although they did have a three-way partnership with Lockheed and Pratt & Whitney to make the F-22. Most of the other fighter jets are just made by Lockheed. Although those C-17 cargo planes are Boeing's, as well as the presidential Doomsday plane. Those E-6B Mercuries that are the command and control center if we happen to go to nuclear war. Well, it should give you the warm and fuzzies to know that those were made by Boeing.
Well, isn't that special?
And another weird totally fucked news, suddenly I'm hearing from surprising places about the virtues of buying precious metals. I actually saw a segment about this on Good Morning America, talking about how one of the biggest sellers at Costco now is 1 ounce gold bars. People are paying above spot for them just to have something that can't be devalued. Which begs the question, why? Why now, all of a sudden, are they wanting to talk about this? The corporate mockingbird media and those that they would describe as respected and serious economists have poo-pooed people buying gold for a long time. They call them gold bugs and act like they're just fear-mongering. After all, the US dollar is king. And if you look at this little chart going back to 2007 comparing the spot gold price to the 10-year treasury rates, there's been a pretty steady correlation over the years through good times and bad. That is, up until 2022, when a divergence occurred, and they've generally been going in opposite directions ever since. So what does this mean in real, practical, everyday terms?
Well, we're boned.
For years and years now, Russia and China's central banks have been buying up as much gold bullion as they could get their fucking hands on, and a lot of other countries have been doing the same. And while all these other countries were stockpiling gold, we had our Federal Reserve telling us, that's stupid. You don't need gold because the dollar is king and it'll always be king.
Pardon me, but that's bullshit.
And there's gonna be a lot of people in the near future that learn that lesson the hard way. But again, it makes me wonder, why now? Why are they starting to talk about this now? And maybe the answer is as simple as they're ready to go ahead and pull the plug on this Ponzi scheme we call the dollar. I was thinking the other day about the nature of propaganda, and how it's funny that most people seem to think of propaganda as them trying to beat into your head the opposite of what you believe to try to make you believe what they want you to believe. But most propaganda is more sophisticated than that. It actually tries to reinforce false things that you believe instead of trying to get you to buy into new false things. And the most sophisticated propaganda does this for different groups of people that believe completely opposite things and does it at the same time. If that sounds confusing, let me give you an example. You know, if you turn on the news and they're talking about how great this economy is doing and look, we're creating all these jobs, people's wages are going up. And inflation isn't that bad. I mean, food inflation was only like 9–10%. And you might be sitting there thinking,
That's some bullshit. That's some bullshit.
Everybody I know is struggling and taking second and third McJobs just to survive. And when I go to the grocery store, the shit that just a few years ago would cost me about $150 now costs me $300. That sure doesn't seem like 10 fucking %. But they're not necessarily trying to convince you that that's the truth. They're just trying to convince you that lots of other people buy into the bullshit that they're saying. Even though you know it's bullshit, they want you to feel like the outlier. And then people that are dumb enough and in denial enough to go, oh yeah, everything is going great. See, so at the same time, they're reinforcing the dipshit's belief that everything is going just fine, as well as reinforcing your belief that everybody believes that everything is going just fine. It's a technique that keeps both groups in line and has worked really well over the decades, only now things are reaching such a point where it's getting harder and harder to buy into that most people still believe things are going okay, because so many fucking people are really feeling the pain and actually speaking about it. So the more that I think about it, yeah, I guess maybe they're ready to pull that fucking plug, because the life support that our economy and our financial system has been on has just about exhausted its usefulness. Which also kind of explains why now they're trying to take us to war in different places all over the fucking world. Because as Gerald Celente is fond of saying, when all else fails, they take you to war. And now over the weekend, you had the Persians responding by sending drones and missiles directly from Persia as well as from Yemen. And the Israelis already made it clear that if you retaliate for us attacking your diplomatic facilities directly, then we're going to retaliate to your retaliation. And unfortunately, I think the probability is pretty good that when Israel launches that retaliation, Persia launches a counterattack that's coordinated with a Russian attack as a retaliation for the Crocus terrorist attack in Moscow. And or China makes a move on Taiwan, because at that point, fuck it, why not? And if that kind of dual retaliation occurs, I think it's also a pretty good chance at the same time we could see something happen here in the US. It's not going to look anything like what happens in Ukraine or Israel or Persia. It's not going to be a bunch of missiles flying overhead. Why go through all that trouble and waste all those expensive missiles when you could simply, oh, I don't know, launch physical attacks on the power grid coordinated with a cyber attack? That'd create a real tinderbox situation. And then you just pepper in some kinetic terrorist-style attacks and you've got the sparks you need. Shit, at that point, we'll do all the heavy lifting for you. We'd tear ourselves a new asshole. It'd be so easy and cost-effective that it makes it really hard for me to believe that that's not the plan. The biggest question for me is just the timeline. It seems pretty clear what direction this is going to unfold. It's just a matter of whether it takes months, weeks, or even days to get really fucked up. Hopefully it gets measured in months, but shit, don't count on it. And as for the little challenge I issued last week about how you would escape from a burning building where you're a little too high up to be able to jump, I got some really good responses. I think my favorite one has probably got to be the throwing your fat trans neighbor off first so you can break your fall when you jump. The only problem is you're gonna need somebody that's like Chris Christie sized, and good luck getting his fucking ass over the railing. Plus, if we're talking about anything above the 3rd floor, it's probably gonna be a little too much for even a human-shaped waterbed to be able to adequately cushion. Rappelling is probably going to be the fastest, safest way of getting down, provided you have the means. In addition to the money for the rope and harness, the descenders, carabiners, you're also going to have the ability to use it. So you're going to have a way to familiarize and test out your equipment, because the hardest part about rappelling is doing it the first time, and you don't want that to be happening in an emergency situation. Plus, what if you've got a few other people in there with you that you're trying to keep alive? What are you gonna do? Just say, I gotta go, see you when I see you. So for those reasons, a rope ladder would be a much better option. This is something that anybody can climb down. It doesn't exactly take training to learn how to use it. And you can make your own for pretty cheap. You can drill holes in wood or even PVC pipe, anchor it to something sturdy, and you're in business. But personally, I decided to go with a fast rope. A fast rope is what Special Forces uses to insert into hostile territory when it's not safe to land a Black Hawk helicopter. It's basically a braided rope about 1 3/4 inch in diameter, and you just slide down that fucker like a fireman's pole, without any kind of harness or anything like that. Just a sturdy pair of gloves to keep your hands from bursting into flames halfway down. And you can buy these, they're pretty expensive, they're gonna run you hundreds of dollars. So why not just make one? You can get some rope at Home Depot and a nice strong carabiner, and then just do a 4-strand braid. You're definitely gonna wanna have an extra set of hands to keep the free ends from getting tangled up though as you're braiding it. Then just coil it up inside a duffel bag, throw in a few pairs of good gloves, put it in a closet or wherever, and you've got your express checkout kit ready to go. And a little bonus tip, if you have the ability to do so, get some 5-gallon buckets with lids, fill them up with some extra food supplies, and then bury them as little caches. That way if the time comes where you have to beat a hasty retreat from your spot, you're not stuck with only what you have in your bug-out bag. And whether or not this was something that would be applicable to you or you found useful doesn't really matter. The point is to just get you thinking about wargaming, the possibilities and probabilities of scenarios you might face, and then trying to think tactically and strategically about how you're going to deal with them. Because like it or not, we're entering an age where that's the way you're going to have to start thinking about things if you want to make it. Sláinte.
All I have in this world is my balls and my word, and I don't break them for no one. You understand? So say good night to the bad guy. 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 Come on. Come on.
Please consider liking, subscribing, sharing this video, or leaving a comment. Because every time you do nothing, Vladimir Putin will shoot another puppy.